Queenie was everybody's pet. She weighed probably weighed 150 pounds. She was a great big white collie, and she waddled every place she went. She had long hair. It was my job. Aunt Nina says, I want you to keep Queenie white. Your job is to take her into the shower with you and wash her when she gets dirty. I didn't like that job very well because I was getting wet, and I had to get in the shower with her and wrestle with her, and she'd lay down on me. And anyway, the problem was with Queenie, as soon as you'd get her washed off, and after she'd shake the water out of her hair for a minute or two, the next thing she wanted to do is lay down in the dirt and roll in it. So I had to keep holding her, or I had to tie her up so she couldn't lay down someplace till she'd dry off. Otherwise, she was muddy again. So that was the ordeal I had with Queenie. But she was a wonderful dog. She raised 2 or 3 litters of pups. She raised a little bobcat kitten. We might have even had a porcupine on her a time or two, I don't know. But she was just a mother to whatever kind of an animal we had available. So that was Queenie. And then I ought to tell you about Skipper. Skipper was another dog we had. Skipper was a water spaniel, and he liked water. And so we taught him how. I'd take a bucket of water and fill it almost to the top, and then I'd throw a quarter in it, in the bucket, and he'd dive into the bucket, put his head clear down to the bottom of the bucket, get the quarter, and bring it up, and then hand it to you. Well, I remember one day some Forest Service guys were sitting at the bar in the restaurant there, and they were drinking beer and putting their bottles in the same can as the porcupine used to tip over and drain them up. And this forest guy reached in to pay for his drinks, and he pulled out a silver dollar, and when he pulled his hand out of his pocket, the silver dollar fell on the floor. And man, there's just like a streak of lightning. Here comes Skipper from some place over in the restaurant. He heard that thing hit the floor, and he ran over there and slid into the dollar and scooped the dollar up like he had been taught to do with the quarters. And this forest guy leaned over and tried to get him to cough up, or give him the dollar, and he was hitting him on the head, on top of the head, to get him to open his mouth, and Skipper swallowed it. And I remember him telling Uncle Harold, he says, they've trained that dog. As soon as we leave, he'll cough that dollar back up. And I remember Uncle Harold saying, here's your dollar, and he gave him a dollar back. And so the guy didn't lose his dollar, and I guess he paid for his beer, I don't know, but animals were fun things to have. I used to always carry a chipmunk with me. I had a chipmunk in my pocket all the time. And I'd tie a little string onto my belt flap here with string, and put the chipmunk down in my pocket, and I had some pine nuts down in there that he could just chew on. And the tourists loved it. When I was waiting on their cars, or they'd see me with my hand in there playing with the chipmunk and so on. They, oh, let me see the chipmunk, and they'd want to hold it. And it was a great tourist interest item. One day, I was up in the fire tower. The fire tower is right down here about a mile and a half. And it's a tower that's about 100, maybe 125 feet in the air that goes way up above all the trees that the forest fire marshals can climb up and they can see 108 or 360 degrees if there's any fires from here 40, 50 miles away. So I used to like to go down there and just crawl up in there and look at their maps, and a lot of times they wouldn't be there, and I'd just go up there anyway. I'd ride old Chief down there and tie him up, and I'd climb up the fire tower, and I had this chipmunk in my pocket one time, and I got up there, and I took the chipmunk out. I was holding him, and somehow or other, he got the noose off of his neck, and he slipped off the string, and I'd left the trap door open where we'd climbed up through it, and that chipmunk hit the floor and jumped right out of the trap door, and it was 125 feet down, and I thought, it'll kill him. And I watched him go down. I watched him all the way down, and he spread his legs out and his tail out, and he just floated down. He didn't go end over end, or he just floated like a cat. And he hit the ground and took off like that, 100 feet down there. Wow. And I thought, that's interesting. And then I think about him running around in the trees here and see him jump from one branch to another. They're very agile. Their sense of balance is perfect. They stay right side up all the way. That reminds me of another story. The water tower that I talked about over here a little bit ago, that we knocked the cabin down so it wouldn't catch on fire. We had a fellow by the name of Keith Bowman. Keith was a nephew of Uncle Harold's that came to work for us one summer. He fell off that water tower and landed on his feet. The water tower was about 20 feet in the air, and he was up there on the little platform and somehow or other fell. And when he landed on his feet. And after that, we called him the cat. Keith the cat, because he landed on his feet. I could sit here and I just keep remembering things, and I'm sorry I'm rambling around, but lots of stories, lots of neat things, lots of wonderful things. Trained a kid that was 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. A lot of responsibility. When anything went wrong at the service station, that was my problem.